Today we read Prakashina, a Buddhist princess, written by Professor Puran Singh. Chapter 1st, The King in Disguise, Part 2nd. A good while passed thus when the young disciple said, Father, what silence of song is descending here tonight! How everything is full of its sweet rapture! What a beautiful peace lies in this village! How good are these people! They have forgotten themselves in the joy of our coming. The sadhu looked up and said, My son, his mercy, his love, his beauty. The elders of the village also rose from their inner sanctuary of heart and went forward to stir the fire and to put in a few more logs. And a few housewives had already gone to fetch fresh milk, and some had by that time returned, each with a tiny, shining golden vase of milk, and all placed their offerings before the sadhu. The full glare of the red fire fell upon the figure of the sadhu and his young disciples, and the red reflections of the same light trembled in the dark, skimming the heads of the housewives that sat opposite, while the village boys and girls went hither and thither, distributing the red reflections of fire on their waving clothes, as so many lights and flashes in this open air picture of the night scene of this assembly of devotees. The sadhu, as he sat, had already bewitched all the women of the village, and they had grown almost lifeless with an unknown kind of attraction for him. His face was that noble mien that he chiseled in aeons, limb by limb, by the immaculate sincerities of one's inner thought, unuttered and unformed, and the inner act of virtue, yet unattempted and still undone by long silent livings of religious aspirations for divine love, seeking no other reward but love everywhere. This angelic beauty of form does not lie in any distinctiveness of mere features, but in that supreme grace of unearthly beauty which, touching any set of features, make them equally irresistible and invest them with the volatile charm of the fairy. Once seen, it can never be forgotten. It haunts one's dreams and visions. In the features of the sadhu, there was that sparkling subtlety of line and curve, that he did not seem to be a real figure. He looked a dream of the starry sky. His figure, though not very tall, even in sitting postures, seemed to be the tallest. His yellow robe covered a faultlessly perfect body, and whenever he raised his arm, it seemed to lift a veil from the face of a hidden creation. In his face blended the Mongolian and the Aryan features in the happiest way, as the blend of these two races has always been fascinating. His raised cheekbones and Tartar expanse of the face reminded one of his being Mongol, but the large eyes, the high nose, the prominent forehead, the long lashes, the half arc of the black bushy eyebrows all pointed out that he was an Aryan. The soft bloom of skin and the white hands with tapering fingers betrayed him as a Persian nobleman. The peculiarity of his physiognomy consisted in its universality of shape and in its infinity of color. Amongst Persians, a Persians amongst Mongols, a Mongol and amongst Aryans, an Aryan. He was a man of every country and climate and habit. The young disciple seemed to be his own reflections in a mirror. He looked like his own son, and the father and the son were roaming in the rapture of their own beauty that they saw in each other. The son doted on his father and father on his son. The boy seemed to be the picture of the younger days of man himself, and it was a delight to look at both the adolescence and the middle age of the same face at one and the same time. However, the boy's features could have lent half a suspicion to a scrutinizing eye that he might be, after all, a girl. The homely village talk began, and the very first questions the villagers put to the sadhu was of the topic of the day. Sir, we hear in these days a certain king, in grief of the day of his beloved queen, roams in disguise seeking her in the face of every woman and feels consoled only when he sees 100 female faces every day. Have you seen him in your rambles? Said a raw young peasant. Ah, father, is it not? The man we saw yesterday must be he. He roamed in tattered clothes, bareheaded and barefooted, looking now at the sun, then at the women who passed him by with baskets of green vegetables on their heads, going from the farm to the marketplace. He had a tear in his eye, a sigh in his breath, and how pale and soul starved he looked. And I wondered at this strange behavior. It must be the father, said the boy. Sir, is it not a pity that love causes such wounds, even to kings who do not come on this earth, like us, to be devoted to wives and children and wealth and cattle and home and earth, but to the performance of their regal duty of protecting the heirs and the honor of the people, providing peace and plenty to them, and owning all homes as their home, all people as their children, remarked Saxon, the old man of the village. Quite right, said the sadhu, but kings must know the wound of humanity before they can heal it. God gives the kings too a home, and it is that home that comes to every home to fulfill its joys and sorrow. The kings too must need endure the pain of love and the sorrows of life as others do. Kings are, after all, human beings. But is it not strange that he is now seeing the faces of others' pupils, wives to cure his pain? It is pity indeed, said many villagers together. But my friends, it is only a story. First of all, no one knows for certain. Secondly, a man who wishes to look at 100 female faces every day before he can set to any work must have an immense love for his wife, and for him all female faces must have become sacred. Woman is holy for him. It is his worship. He finds his God in the collective glimpse of 100 faces. He must be a great king if there is such a one. Blessed are the people who must be living under this regime, for on account of his personal pain, his kingdom must have become mercy and love, and by his conquest of self, an absolute justice in itself. In the kingdom of such a man, no one can ever think hurting another, and the evil doors lose by his very presence on the throne their evil propensities, but a man imbued with so much unselfish love is rare.